I have valued the same object 5 different ways, and every number was correct. Not because the market changed, and not because the data was inconsistent, but because the question changed. I'm an art appraiser, and for over 25 years, my job has been to answer a question that sounds simple: what's it worth? But most people don't realize that this question is almost always incomplete. Because before you can answer what something is worth, you have to understand what you're asking for. This is something that I come back to consistently in my work. Purpose before the price, because value is not fixed, it's conditional. It depends on context, how something is being used, where it's being sold, who's on the other side of the transaction. Take a single object. Let's walk through a few different real world scenarios. Here we have an 18th century carved figure of a Puto, part of my collection. If I were asking, what would it cost to insure it? What would it cost to replace it? That number reflects the retail market, what it actually takes to go out and find another example. So that price will include the dealer price, the time it takes to locate it, the taxes, the shipping, possible installation, advisor's fees. All of these are numbers to protect me in the event of a loss. It's meant to make you whole. Now, let's consider the gallery setting. Let's say you found this piece in a gallery and you were looking to buy it, but you hired me as an appraiser and asked me to provide a report for you as to the purchase value. Purchase value, it might be very close to that retail replacement value, but in that situation, I'm not considering the taxes, the shipping, the installation. You might have that on the top of your head, but what I'm giving you is the number you should consider paying to the dealer to obtain it. So now you've hired me to advise you. In that situation, my role is different. I'm not determining a replacement value. I'm not building in every possible future cost. I'm looking at, does this asking price make sense within the market? How does it compare to other works that are out there? Is there room for you to negotiate the price? What should you reasonably pay? I may advise you on the taxes and the shipping and the installation, but I'm not rolling that into the final number itself in my report. I'm helping you to understand the retail price in context, not the retail replacement value. Now let's shift the question. What is it worth for an estate? Not that I plan to go anywhere anytime soon. But now we're talking about a fair market value. What it would cost between a willing buyer and a willing seller, neither one under any pressure and both being informed. Usually, this is considered an auction price. It's what it sells for when it hammers down, plus the buyer's premium, that what you're paying to the auction house in order to get the work. That number is often quite different and much lower than the retail replacement value for insurance purposes. Same painting, different context, different answer. Now let's change the situation entirely. What if I were going through a divorce? Neither of us are willing to part with this piece, and so the court is forcing us to sell it at auction. Now, we've got those same auction prices what it would sell for, but the question now is, what are we going to walk away with after all of those expenses are paid for? The listing prices, the shipping, all of those things are taken into consideration for your marketable cash value. Again, different context, different value, same piece. So now you have multiple values all at the same time and all correct. So this is where I see most people getting tripped up. They compare these numbers as if they're supposed to align. An auction result against an insurance value, a retail price against a fair market value. And when they don't match, the assumption is something must be wrong. But nothing's wrong. They're just answering entirely different questions. Now, there's another layer to this that people often don't realize. Even within a single purpose, the way an appraisal is prepared can vary. When you hire an appraiser, one of those important questions is, do you need a fully developed report? Or are you comfortable relying on the conclusion with the detailed support being held in my work file? Because those are two very different things. A fully written report with full analysis, comparable data, and explanations, that takes significantly more time to write up and therefore costs more. Whereas in other situations, you may not need that written out at all, particularly for very low valued items. That value still might be the same, but the level of documentation changes depending on the purpose. Again, purpose before price. So if you're doing this for donation purposes, the IRS requires a certain level of write up that other reports may not require. In my work, the challenge isn't just determining the number, it's making that number hold up so that it can be explained, defended, and understood within the right context. Because without context, the number is just a number. Now, the older I get and the more I've been working in this industry, I've realized that this process doesn't apply just to art. It applies to how we make decisions in our own lives, how we value the choices that we're making. One often comes out with the outcome first. I want to have a house. But we don't stop to ask, well, why do you want the house? What's the purpose behind it? Because buying a house could mean a lot of different things. It could mean you want it for investment purposes. It could mean you want to live in it. It could mean that you want to have a home for your family. It could mean a small cabin in the woods, or it could mean a chateau in the south of France. All of those things mean I want to buy a house, but there are so many different variables concerned. You need to know what the purpose is first before you can actually determine the price range in which you're going to buy that house. Because the price becomes disconnected from the meaning. The same is true with value. If you don't understand the purpose, the number, no matter how precise, doesn't actually tell you what you think it does. This is what I'm exploring in my series, The Currencies of Value. Not just how we assign numbers, but how we understand what those numbers actually mean. Because before price, there's always a purpose.